Good day, Sebastians. May the Sacred Heart of Jesus be loved everywhere. I am Sir Jerico Orpilla and I will be your teacher in mathematics. Today we are going to discuss quadratic equations. Let us define quadratic equation. Quadratic equation is a second degree polynomial. Ibig sabihin, this equation or the highest exponent na meron ang quadratic equation ay 2. It is an equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, where x represents a variable and a, b, and c represents real numbers, wherein the value of a must not be equal to 0. Because if the value of a is 0, it will no longer be a quadratic equation. It is a linear equation now. That's why a is the quadratic coefficient, b is the linear coefficient, c is the constant term. The solutions to quadratic equations are what we called roots. Ibig sabihin, the values of x na makikita natin o masasolve natin in quadratic equation, ang tawag natin doon ay roots. There are two kinds of quadratic equations. It is the complete and incomplete quadratic equations. When we say complete quadratic equations, an example of this is ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, in which you can notice that the values of a, b, and c are defined. But in this case, ax squared plus c is equal to 0, and the equation ax squared plus bx is equal to 0, and then ax squared is equal to 0, these are what we called incomplete quadratic equations. Because in the first equation, there is no value of b. In the second equation, there is no value of the constant term. In the third equation, there is no value of b and c. That's why it is incomplete quadratic equations. Let us talk about the standard form of quadratic equation. The standard form of the quadratic equation is written as ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. If the value of your a is a negative number, then you have to multiply the whole equation by -1 to make it in standard form. For example, I have here negative 2x squared plus 5x minus 7 is equal to 0. Although the given quadratic equation is written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, the value of your a is a negative. Sabi natin, if the value of your a is negative number, then we have to multiply the whole equation by -1. That's why let us multiply the whole equation by -1. By simplifying, -1 multiplied by -2x squared will give us positive 2x squared. And then -1 multiplied by 5x will give us negative 5x. And then -1 multiplied by 7 is a positive 7 equals -1 multiplied by 0 is a 0. Now, this is our final answer. Because it is now written in the standard form and the value of your a is a positive number. That is how we are going to write a quadratic equation into standard form. Let us have another example on how to write quadratic equations into standard form. Example, 2x squared plus 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. Always remember that In writing a quadratic equation into standard form, we have to follow the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Meaning to say, you have to make the right side of the equation equal to 0. Now, look at this example. Is this already in a standard form? Yes. How about the value of your a? It is a positive number. No need for us to multiply the whole equation by negative 1. Therefore, we can conclude that this example is already in a standard form. What are we going to do now is to determine what are the values of a, b, and c. As you can see on the equation, the value of our a is 2. And then the value of our b is positive 3. And the constant term or value of c is negative 4. Another example. Example number 2. X squared plus 2x is equal to 5. Is this equation already in a standard form? Or is this equation follows the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0? Not yet, right? As you can see in the example, it is equated into 5. Our aim is to make the right side of the quadratic equation equal to 0 to make it in a standard form. And make the value of your a always a positive number. For us to make this 5 equal to 0, what are we going to do? We are going to add the opposite of 5 into the both sides of the equation. By addition property of equality, we are going to add both sides of the equation by negative 5 to make the right side of the equation equal to 0. So we have x squared plus 2x minus 5 is equal to, what is 5 minus 5? That is equal to 0. So we have x squared plus 2x minus 5 is equal to 0. The question is this quadratic equation already in a standard form? Yes, because it has been equated into 0 and the value of your a is a positive. Therefore, let us determine now the values of a, b, and c. From the final answer that we have, the value of our a is positive 1. The value of our b is positive 2. The value of our c is negative 5. Okay, number 3. Example number 3. 3x squared is equal to negative 4 over 5x. Again, is this quadratic equation already in a standard form? Or it follows the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0? Not yet, right? Because it is equated into negative 4 over 5x. Again, for us to make this a 0, we have to add the opposite of negative 4 over 5x to the both sides of the equation, which is positive 4 over x. Applying the addition property of equality, we are going to add the both sides of the equation by the opposite of negative 4 over 5x, which is positive 4 over x, 4 over 5x. By simplifying this one, negative 4 over 5x plus 4 over 5x is equal to 0. That's why this is our quadratic equation which is written into standard form. It's time for us to determine the values of a, b, and c. As you can see on the final answer that we have, the value of A is 3. The value of B is 4 over 5. How about C? What is the value of C? Yes, that is equal to 0 because hindi na natin makita sa equation. Okay? Let us have example number 4. 5x squared is equal to 16. Is the given quadratic equation already written into standard form? Or does it follows the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0? Not yet, right? Okay. For us to make this quadratic equation written into standard form, we have to make the right side of the equation equal to 0. How are we going to do that? It is by adding the opposite of 16, which is negative 16. By applying the addition property of equality, we are going to add both sides of the equation by negative 16 to make the right side of the equation equal to 0. So we have, by simplifying, 16 minus 16 is equal to 0. And now, 5x squared minus 16 is equal to 0 is now written into standard form of the quadratic equations. How about the value of your a? Is it a positive or negative number? It is a positive number. That's why no need for us to make or to multiply the whole equation by negative 1 because the value of a is a positive number. Let us now determine the values of a, b, and c. As you can see on the final answer that we have, the value of our a is positive 5. How about b? The value of our b is 0. How about c? The value of our c is negative 16. Let's have example number 5. Negative 6x squared plus 5x is equal to negative 3. As you can see on the given quadratic equation, it does not follow the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Because the given quadratic equation is equated into negative 3 and the value of its a is negative 6. So we have to make the right side of the equation equal to 0 and make the value of a positive number. That's why first let us make the right side of the equation equal to 0. How are we going to do that? It is by adding the opposite of negative 3. Both sides of the equation. We are going to add both sides of the equation by the opposite of negative 3, which is positive 3. Okay, by addition property of equality, we are going to add both sides of the equation by positive 3. And we all know that negative 3 plus 3 is only equal to 0. Now, nagawa na natin gawing 0 yung right side ng equation. Our next step is to make the value of our a positive number. Paano natin gagawin yan? Again, if the value of our a is a negative number, we have to multiply it by negative 1 to make it a positive. That's why we are going to multiply the whole equation by negative 1. That's why we have negative 1 multiplied by negative 6, we have a positive 6x squared. And then negative 1 multiplied by positive 5, or positive 5x, we have negative 5x. And then negative 1 multiplied by positive 3 is a negative 3 equals negative 1 multiplied by 0 is 0. See? Our quadratic equation now is already written into standard form. Now, it's time for us to determine what are the values of A, B, and C. As you can see on our answer, the value of our A is positive 6. The value of our B is negative 5. And the value of our C is negative 3. Let us proceed in solving quadratic equations. Solving quadratic equations means we are going to find the values of x, or the roots of the quadratic equations in which it will satisfy the whole equation. There are several ways on how to solve quadratic equations. The first method we are going to learn is solving quadratic equations by extracting square roots. In this method, we are going to use the concept of square root property. It is used to solve incomplete quadratic equations in which the value of b is 0. Square root property states that if x squared is equal to c, then x is equal to the positive square root of c, or x is equal to negative square root of c for all non-negative real numbers c. Ibig sabihin, kung meron tayong x squared is equal to c, then the value of x is given to us by getting the positive and negative square root of c, in which your c must be a positive number. It should not be a negative number. Okay? Let us now discuss this one. This is read as the nth root of x, wherein the n is what we call the index. It tells us how many factors are needed to obtain the radicand. This symbol or sign is what we call the radical sign or the radical symbol. And then the number or expression inside the radical sign is what we call radicand. For instance, if we have here the symbol like that, it is understood that this is square root. The index is understood to be 2. Okay? This is what we call cube root. And this is what we call fourth root. Let us recall some concepts on how to find the square roots of a number. Let's look at these examples. Square root of 1 is equal to 1 because 1 multiplied by 1 is equal to 1. Square root of 4 is equal to 2 because 2 times 2 is equal to 4. Square root of 9 is equal to 3 because 3 times 3 is equal to 9. Square root of 16 is equal to 4 because 4 times 4 is equal to 16. Square root of 25 is equal to 5 because 5 times 5 is equal to 25. The radicands in these examples are what we call perfect square number because their square roots are whole number. But what if we are going to find the square root of 8, in which 8 is not a perfect square? For us to simplify that, let us look for a perfect square factor. Meaning to say, alamin natin ano ba yung mga factors ni 8. Tignan natin doon, ano doon yung factor na kung saan ay perfect square. Isa-isahin natin ano yung mga factors ni 8. We have 1 multiplied by 8. Meron bang perfect square number doon? 1 and 8? Wala. How about 2 times 4? Meron bang perfect square sa 2 and 4? Yes, si 4. That's why we are going to write square root of 8 as the square root of 4 times 2. Okay? And then, let us separate square root of 4 times 2. Written as square root of 4 times square root of 2. And then, let us get the square root of 4, which is 2 times the square root of 2. Again, square root of 4 is equal to 2 times square root of 2. Now, let us multiply. 2 multiplied by square root of 2 is 2 square root of 2. Itabi lang natin. Okay? Because there is an invisible 1 here. 2 multiplied by 1 is 2 square root of 1. Another example. Square root of 24. Let us look for a factor na kung saan ay perfect square number. Isipin natin, ano ba yung mga factors ni 24? We have 1 multiplied by 24. Meron bang perfect square number doon? 1 and 24? Wala. How about 2 times 12? Meron bang perfect square number sa dalawang nabanggit na number? Wala. E paano kung 4 times 6? Yes, meron. 4 times 6, si 4 pwedeng kunin ang square root niya. That's why we are going to write square root of 24 as the product of 4 and 6. Yeah. Square root of 4 times 6. And then, isa-separate natin siya for square root of 4 times square root of 6. And then, let us get the square root of 4, which is 2. We have 2 times square root of 6. By multiplying 2 into square root of 6, we have 2 square root of 6. We've already simplified square root of 24. Eh sir, paano po kung wala siyang factor na perfect square number? Halimbawa, ganito. Square root of 10. Ano ba mga factors ni 10? We have 1 times 10. Meron bang perfect square number doon? Wala. How about 2 times 5? Meron bang perfect square number doon? Wala. Kapag walang factor na perfect square number ang isang number, then the answer is itself, square root of 10. Sir, paano naman po kung prime number na po yung radicand namin? For example, square root of 7. Just like square root of 10, it is equal to square root of 7, equal to itself. That's all. Okay. Before we try to solve quadratic equations by extracting square roots, you have to remember that in finding the square root of a number, you are dealing with a positive result, because that is how the principal root of a number is defined. But in solving an equation, you are finding the possible values of the variable that will work in the equation. That is why both positive and negative values must be considered. A square-rooted number has only one value. But a square-rooted equation has two possible values, the positive and negative. Now, let's have example number 1. X squared is equal to 49. By applying the concept of square root property, we are going to get the square root of both sides of the equation. That is, square root of x squared is equal to positive negative square root of 49. Now, let us simplify the equation. What is the square root of x squared? That is x. Because x times x is equal to x squared. Equals positive negative. What is the square root of 49? That is 7. Positive negative 7. Therefore, the values of x in the equation x squared is equal to 49 is positive 7 and negative 7. But how are we going to know if these answers is correct? It is by using the checking. We are going to substitute the values of x that we have found in the original equation. So if x is equal to 7, then let us replace x by 7. That is, x quantity square is equal to 49. Kapag ba in-square natin si 7, magiging 49? Let us see. What is 7 square? That is 49. Therefore, equal sila. Then, your answer, x is equal to 7, is correct. How about if x is equal to negative 7? Again, by replacing x as negative 7, we have negative 7 quantity square. Magiging equal kaya yan sa 49? What is negative 7 quantity square? That is also 49. That's why nag-equal sila bandang huli. Therefore, x is equal to negative 7 is also correct. Okay, let's have example number 2. 2x squared minus 50 is equal to 0. As you can see, it is written in standard form. But if we are going to solve quadratic equations by extracting square roots, we are going to isolate the variable term in the left side of the equation, and all constant must be on the other side of the equation. That's why we are going to isolate x squared by adding the opposite of negative 50, which is positive 50. That's why by addition property of equality, we are going to add both sides of the equation by 50. Now, by simplifying, 2x squared minus 50 plus 50 is just equal to 0. Is equal to 0 plus 50 will give you 50. So you have now 2x squared is equal to 50. And as you can see, and then we are going to divide both sides of the equation by 2 in order for us to isolate x squared on the left side of the equation. So we have 2 divided by 2 is maka-cancel na yan, and then 50 divided by 2 is equal to 25. So we have x squared is equal to 25. Now, by applying the concept of square root property, we are going to get the square root of both sides of the equation. That is, square root of x squared is equal to positive negative square root of 25. And then, by simplifying, the square root of x squared is equal to x, and the square root of 25 is 5. So we have x is equal to positive and negative 5. Therefore, the value or the values of x in our equation 2x squared minus 50 is equal to 0 is 5 and negative 5. Again, para malaman natin kung tama ang sagot natin, we are going to verify that using checking, in which we are going to substitute the values of x into our equation. So, if x is equal to 5, by substitution, we are going to substitute 5 into x, and then 2 raised, so we have 2 raised, multiplied by 5 raised to 2 minus 50 is equal to 0. Now, 5 quantity square is equal to 25. So we have 2 times 25 minus 50. Will it be equal to 0? What do you think? Yes, because 2 times 25 is equal to 50 minus 50, mag-i-equal tayo sa 0. Therefore, 5 is correct. And then, what if x is equal to negative 5? By substitution, we are going to substitute negative 5 into our equation. So we have 2 multiplied by negative 5 quantity square minus 50 equal kaya yan sa 0. Let's simplify. 2 times what is negative 5 square? That is 25. Minus 50, mag-i-equal lang kaya yan sa 0. Simplify ulit natin. 2 times 25, that is 50. Minus 50, equal kaya yan sa 0. 50 minus 50 is 0. That's why 0 is equal to 0. Then, our answer, x is equal to negative 5 is correct. Let's have example number 3. In this example, we have x squared plus 4 is equal to 20. In order for us to isolate x squared on the left side of the equation, we have to make positive 4 be equal to 0. How are we going to do that? It is by adding the opposite of positive 4, which is negative 4. Meaning to say, we are going to add both sides of the equation by negative 4. By addition property of equality, x squared plus 4 minus 4 is just equal to 0, is equal to 20 minus 4. Let us simplify. So we have x squared is equal to, what is 20 minus 4? We have 16. Now, let us apply the square root property. By getting the square root of both sides of the equation, we have square root of x squared is equal to positive negative square root of 16. Now, what is the square root of x squared? That is x. What about the square root of 16? That is 4. That's why our answer is x is equal to positive negative 4. Therefore, the values of x in the equation x squared plus 4 is equal to 20 is 4 and negative 4. Again, to determine if our answers x is equal to 4 and x is equal to negative 4 are correct, we have to substitute this in our equation. Let's do the checking. If x is equal to 4, then by substitution, we are going to substitute 4 into our x. So we have 4 quantity square plus 4 is equal to 20. And then by simplifying 4 quantity square, we have 16. 16 plus 4, will it be equal to 20? Yes, because 16 plus 4 is 20. Therefore, 20 is equal to 20. Then our answer, x is equal to 4, is correct. What if x is equal to negative 4? Again, by substituting negative 4 in the equation, we have negative 4 quantity square plus 4 is equal to 20. By simplifying negative 4 quantity square, we will have 16. 16 plus 4, will it be equal to 20? Yes, because 16 plus 4 is 20. Therefore, 20 is equal to 20. Again, nag-equal sila. Therefore, x is equal to negative 4 is also correct. Another example. Okay, let's have example number 4. X plus 3 quantity square is equal to 25. By applying the concept of square root property, we are going to take the square root of both sides of the equation. So we have square root of x plus 3 quantity square is equal to the positive and negative square root of 25. By simplifying, we are going to get the square root of x plus 3 quantity square. Similarly, we are going to get also the square root of 25. Now, let us simplify. What is the square root of x plus 3 quantity square? That is x plus 3 equals. What is the square root of 25? That is positive and negative 5. Now, look at the equation. So you can see, hindi pa rin naka-isolate si x mag-isa dun sa left side of the equation. Meron pa rin siyang kasamang 3. That's why we are going to make this one 0 para ang matira na lang sa left side of the equation is x. Ano ang gagawin natin? We are going to add the opposite of positive 3 on both sides of the equation to make this 0. So we have, by applying the addition property of equality, we are going to add negative 3 to both sides of the equation so that it will become 0. Makakancel na yan. Di ba? So, ang matitira na lang sa left side ay x is equal to positive and negative 5 minus 3. And then, we have to simplify the resulting equation because there are two possible cases of 5, which is positive and negative. So, let's separate that. X is equal to positive 5 minus 3, and then x is equal to negative 5 minus 3. By simplifying the first equation, x is equal to 5 minus 3, it will give us x is equal to 2. And then the other equation, x is equal to negative 5 minus 3 will give us negative 8. Therefore, there are two possible values of x of the equation x plus 3 quantity square is equal to 25. How are we going to know if this answers x is equal to 2 and x is equal to negative 8 is correct? Again, by checking, we are going to substitute 2 to the x and then negative 8 to the x of our equation. So we have, if x is equal to 2, then let us replace x in the equation by 2. So 2 plus 3 quantity square is equal to 25. Kapag sinimplify ba natin ito, will it be equal to 25? Mag-i-equal lang kaya yan? Tignan natin. Simplify natin. We have 2 plus 3 will give us 5 quantity square. Will it be equal to 25? Okay, 5 square is 25. Therefore, it is equal to 25. We can conclude that x is equal to 2 is correct. What if our x is equal to negative 8? Let's try. Let us replace x by negative 8. So we have negative 8 plus 3 quantity square is equal to 25. Mag-i-equal lang kaya yan. Let us simplify. Negative 8 plus 3 will give us negative 5 quantity square equals 25. Mag-i-equal lang kaya yan? What is negative 5 quantity square? That is positive 25. Mag-equal siya sa positive 25. Therefore, negative 8 is also a root of this equation x plus 3 quantity square is equal to 25. Let us proceed to another method on how to solve quadratic equations. It is by factoring. In your previous grade, you have already learned how to factor certain polynomials. In this lesson, we are going to apply the concept of factoring in solving quadratic equations. Factoring is applicable in the quadratic equations ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0 and ax squared plus bx is equal to 0. If we are going to use factoring as our method in solving quadratic equations, we are going to use the concept of zero product property, which states that if m and n are real numbers and m multiplied by n is equal to 0, then it's either m is equal to 0 or n is equal to 0. Okay, let us try to solve quadratic equations using factoring. Take note that if we are going to use factoring in solving quadratic equations, and we are going to use the concept of zero product property, we have to secure that the right side of the equation is equated to 0 for us to be able to apply the zero product property. So let's have example number 1. 3x squared minus 15x is equal to 0. As you can see, the equation is already equated to 0. Therefore, we are going to proceed in factoring. In factoring 3x squared minus 15x, we are going to find the GCF of 3x squared and 15x, the greatest common factor. The question is, what is the greatest common factor of 3x squared and 15x? That is 3x. And then, for us to find the other factor, we are going to divide 3x squared minus 15x by the GCF 3x. So let us simplify. 3x squared divided by 3x, that is equal to x. And then negative 15x divided by 3x will give us negative 5 equals 0. So you can see, na-factor na natin yung 3x squared minus 15x. Now, we can apply the zero product property. Applying the zero product property, we have 3x is equal to 0 and x minus 5 is equal to 0. Let us first simplify this equation. 3x is equal to 0. For us to find the value of x, we have to isolate x only on the left side. How are we going to do that? It is by dividing both sides of the equation by 3. So we have 3x divided by 3 will give us x is equal to 0 divided by 3. That is 0. That's why x is equal to 0. Another. This one, x minus 5 is equal to 0. We have to isolate x only on the left side of the equation in order for us to find the value of x. So what are we going to do? We are going to add both sides of the equation by the opposite of negative 5. What is the opposite of negative 5? That is positive 5. Meaning to say, we are going to add both sides of the equation by 5, or we are going to transpose negative 5 to the left side of to the right side of the equation, and this negative sign will become a positive. That's why 0 plus 5. Understood? So we have x is equal to 0 plus 5. 0 plus 5 will give us positive 5. Therefore, the values of x in our equation 3x squared minus 15x is 0 and 5. How are we going to know if this is correct? It is by checking. Now, the checking part, I will leave it to you so that you can verify if our answers are correct. Okay, example number 2. X squared minus 7x is equal to negative 12. As you can see in the given example, it is not equated to 0. Therefore, we are going to make negative 12 0 in order for us to apply the zero product property. How are we going to do that? It is by transposing negative 12 into the left side of the equation, or simply add the opposite of negative 12, which is positive 12. So we have, okay, x squared minus 7x plus 12 is equal to 0. Now, we are going to factor x squared minus 7x plus 12. What is the factored form of x squared minus 7x plus 12? Remember that this is a trinomial, right? There is a technique on how to find the factored form of a trinomial. I will leave it to you how to factor a trinomial. The factored form of x squared minus 7x plus 12 is equal to x minus 3 multiplied by x minus 4 equals to 0. By applying the ZPP or zero product property, we have x minus 3 is equal to 0 or x minus 4 is equal to 0. Let us simplify first. X minus 3 is equal to 0. By transposing negative 3 to the right side of the equation, in order for us to isolate x only on the left side, we have x is equal to 0 plus 3. Bakit siya naging plus? Because if we are going to transpose negative 3 to the right side of the equation, magbabago po yung sign ni 3. Magiging positive. Okay? So we have x is equal to 0 plus 3. Simplifying 0 plus 3, we have x is equal to 3. How about this one? Parehas lang ng ginawa natin dito sa una. We are going to transpose negative 4 to the right side of the equation para ma-isolate si x sa left side at mahanap natin ano ang value ni x in the equation. So we have x is equal to 0 plus 4. From negative 4, magiging positive 4. 0 plus 4 will give us positive 4. Now we have the values of x as 3 and 4. Now, I will leave the checking part on you so that you can verify if our answers are correct. How about this one? Example number 3. X multiplied by x plus 2 minus 17 is equal to 18. Okay, as you can see, we can simplify x and x plus 2, and then we need also to make 18 0 in order for us to apply the ZPP. Let us simplify first this one. By distributive property, x multiplied by x and then x multiplied by positive 2, we have x squared plus 2x minus 17 is equal to 18. Next step, we are going to make the right side of the equation equal to 0. How are we going to do that? It is by transposing positive 18 on the left side of the equation, or adding both sides of the equation by the opposite of positive 18, which is negative 18. So we have x squared plus 2x minus 17 minus 18 is equal to 0. Now, didiretso na ba tayo sa pag-factoring? Hindi pa. Because, as you can see, these are like terms. They are both constant. We have to combine them in order for us to be able to factor it. Okay, adding negative 17 by negative 18, we have x squared plus 2x minus 35 is equal to 0. Now, we can proceed on factoring. What is the factored form of x squared plus 2x minus 35? Again, I will leave to you how to factor that. Just scan your notes, the books you have in your previous grade, because the factored form of x squared plus 2x minus 35 is x plus 7 multiplied by x minus 5 is equal to 0. By applying the ZPP, we have x plus 7 is equal to 0 and x minus 5 is equal to 0. Let us first simplify this one. X plus 7 is equal to 0. For us to be able to find the value of x, we are going to transpose positive 7 to the right side of the equation. So that is x is equal to 0 minus 7. What is 0 minus 7? That is a negative 7. So the value of our x is negative 7. Another one, x minus 5 is equal to 0. Again, katulad ng ginawa natin dito, we are going to transpose negative 5 to the right side of the equation and it will become x is equal to 0 plus 5. What is 0 plus 5? That is a positive 5. Therefore, the values of x in the equation x multiplied by x plus 2 minus 17 is equal to 18 are negative 7 and positive 5. Again, the checking part, I will leave it to you for you to verify if our answers are correct. Okay. Let us proceed to another method on how to solve quadratic equations. It is by using completing the square. There are quadratic equations that are not factorable. That's why if an equation is not factorable, we can apply the method of completing the square. In this method, we are going to transform one side of the equation into a perfect square trinomial. How are we going to do that? To complete the square of the expression x squared plus bx, we are going to take the half of the coefficient b and square the quotient. Then, after that, we are going to add the result to the expression x squared plus bx. That is x squared plus bx plus quantity b over 2 square. After that, the resulting perfect square trinomial can be written as a square of a binomial in the form x plus b over 2 quantity square. And after that, we can apply the method of extracting square roots. Bago tayo mag-proceed on solving quadratic equations using completing the square, let us first learn how to complete the square of the following expressions. For example, I have here expression x squared minus 8x. In order for us to complete the square of this expression, we are going to take the half of the coefficient b, which is negative 8. So we have negative 8 over 2 is just equal to negative 4. After that, we are going to square negative 4. If we are going to square that, we have negative 4 quantity square is equal to positive 16. Now, to complete the square of this expression, we are going to add positive 16. That's why we have x squared minus 8x plus 16. And this is what we called perfect square trinomial. And we all know that a perfect square trinomial can be written in the form of a square of a binomial. Just like that. X plus b over 2 quantity square. Meaning, we are going to write this perfect square trinomial as a square of a binomial. How are we going to do that? First, we all know that that perfect square trinomial can be written as square of a binomial. And then following the form of this, we have x. And then how are we going to find b over 2? Look at this one. We all know that negative 8 is the coefficient b. Divided by 2, we have negative 4. Meaning, we are going to get negative 4 and ilalagay natin dyan. And that is our square of a binomial. Meaning to say, this perfect square trinomial is equal to the square of a binomial in the form x minus 4 quantity square. Kahit pakunin nyo yung product ng x minus 4 quantity square na ito, it will just be equal to this perfect square trinomial. And that is how we do the completing the square. Another example, x squared plus 6x. Again, para makomplete natin yung square ng expression na ito, we are going to take the half of the coefficient b, which is positive 6. Meaning to say, we have 6 over 2 is just equal to 3. And then this 3, we are going to square that so that we have 3 quantity square is equal to positive 9. Ngayon, para ma-complete yung square ng expression na to, we are going to add positive 9. So we have x squared plus 6x plus 9. And again, this is what we call a perfect square trinomial. And we all know that this perfect square trinomial can be written as square of a binomial by following this form. So we have x, and then how are we going to do to get the missing term? We have to add positive 3. Okay? And that's it. X squared minus 5x. We are going to take the half of the coefficient b. So we have negative 5 over 2 is equal to negative 5 over 2. Right? Because negative 5 is not divisible by 2, then we write it as negative 5 over 2. And then, we are going to square that. Negative 5 over 2 quantity square will give us positive 25 over 4. Paano po nangyari yon? Diba? Ang rule natin kapag nagmumultiply tayo ng fractions, numerator to numerator and then denominator by denominator. In-expand lang ito as negative 5 over 2 times negative 5 over 2. And the product is 25, positive 25 over 4. Now, to complete the square of this expression, we are going to add 25 over 4. So we have x squared minus 5x plus 25 over 4. And we all know that this perfect square trinomial can be written as a square of a binomial by getting this one, negative 5 over 2. So the square of a binomial of this perfect square trinomial is x minus 5 quantity square. X minus 5 over 2 quantity square. Okay? Another example, we have x squared plus 3x. We have to divide the coefficient b by 2. So we have 3 over 2 is equal to 3 over 2 since 3 is not divisible by 2. And then after that, we are going to square this one. We have 3 over 2 quantity square will give us 9 over 4. The same process that we have in this one. Okay? And for us to complete the square of this expression, we are going to add 9 over 4. So we have x squared plus 3x plus 9 over 4. And this perfect square trinomial can be written as square of a binomial by getting this one, 3 over 2. Positive 3 over 2. That's why we have x plus 3 over 2 quantity square. Now that we have already learned how to complete the square of the previous expressions, let us now apply this concept in solving quadratic equations. Let us first discuss the steps in solving quadratic equations by completing the square. Step 1, make sure that a is equal to 1. Because if it is not, then we are going to divide each term of the equation by the value of a. Then we can proceed to step 2. In step 2, we are going to group all the variable terms on one side of the equation and constant terms on the other side. That is, x squared plus bx is equal to c. Ibig sabihin, kailangan lahat na may mga variable terms ay nasa iisang side lang na equation, and then yung mga constant terms ay nasa iisang side lang din ni equation. And then step 3, take half of the coefficient b and square the quotient. And then add the result to both sides of the equation. That is, x squared plus bx plus b over 2 quantity square is equal to c plus b over 2 quantity square. Ibig sabihin, ito lang yung ginawa natin sa previous slide. Ito yung inaral natin how to complete the square of certain expressions. But this time, in solving quadratic equations, by completing the square, we are not just add the quotient into the expression. We are going to add both sides of the equation. Okay? Step 4, factor the resulting perfect square trinomial and write it as a square of a binomials. That is, in the form x plus b over 2 quantity square. So, yun nga. After nating makuha, yung i-add natin both sides of the equation, yung perfect square trinomial, kailangan nating isulat into square of a binomial. Because after that, we can extract the square root to both sides of the equation in order for us to determine the solution of the given quadratic equation. That is, getting the square root of both sides of the equation. So we have x plus b over 2 is equal to the positive and negative square root of c plus the square root of b over 2 quantity square. So let us solve problems by using completing the square. Let us solve example number 1. X squared plus 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. So step-by-step process tayo. Step 1, we have to make sure that the value of our a is equal to 1. As you can see on the example, the value of our a is equal to 1. Therefore, there's no need for us to divide the whole equation by the value of a, because we can now proceed to step 2. We are going to group all the variable terms on one side of the equation and then the constant term on the other side of the equation. So we have to transpose negative 3 to the other side of the equation. That is, x squared plus 2x is equal to positive 3. And then, we have to complete the square of this expression, x squared plus 2x. It is by getting or taking half of the coefficient b, which is positive 2. Right? So we have b over 2 is equal to 2 over 2, which is equal to 1. And after that, we are going to square this 1. We have 1 quantity square will give us positive 1. Now, by step 4, we are going to add both sides of the equation by positive 1. X squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 3 plus 1. And by adding 3 and 1, we have x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 4. And then after that, this is a perfect square trinomial, right? And as stated in the steps, in the previous slide, we are going to write this perfect square trinomial as a square of a binomial. That is, x plus 1 quantity square is equal to 4. Paano kung naging ganito to? because we are going to follow the form x plus b over 2 quantity square. What is our b over 2? Because this is x plus b over 2. B over 2 is equal to 1. Therefore, we are going to add 1. And this is now our square of a binomial. Now, we have to proceed on step 5, extracting square roots. We are going to take the square root of both sides of the equation. So we have square root of x plus 1 quantity square is equal to the positive and negative square root of 4. By simplifying, what is the square root of x plus 1 quantity square? That is x plus 1. How about positive 4? What is the square root of positive 4? That is positive 2. So we have x plus 1 is equal to positive and negative 2. Now, for us to find the value of x, we are going to isolate it on the other side of the on the one side of the equation. Therefore, we are going to transpose positive 1 to the other side of the equation. Therefore, we have x is equal to positive and negative 2 minus 1. For us to find the value of x, we have to separate the positive and negative 2. Therefore, we have x is equal to positive 2 minus 1, and then x is equal to negative 2 minus 1. By simplifying, what is 2 minus 1? That is 1. And then x is equal to negative 2 minus 1 will give us negative 3. Therefore, the values or roots of the equation x squared plus 2x minus 3 is equal to 0 are 1 and negative 3. Now, how are we going to do to know if these answers are correct? We have to do the checking. And the checking part, I will leave it to you. You are the one who are going to verify if these answers are correct. Okay? We have example number 2, negative 8x plus 15 is equal to 0. Step-by-step process. Step 1, we have to make sure that the coefficient or numerical coefficient of our x square or the a is equal to 1. In this equation, very evident that the value of a is 1. Okay? Therefore, we can proceed to step 2, in which it states that we have to group all the variable terms on one side of the equation and then the constant term on the other side of the equation. Meaning, we have to transpose positive 15 on the other side of the equation. So we have x squared minus 8x is equal to negative 15. After that, we are going to complete the square of this expression x squared minus 8x by getting the half of the coefficient b and then square it. So we have b over 2 is equal to, what is your b? That is negative 8. Divided by 2, we have negative 4. And then we are going to square negative 4. That is, negative 4 quantity square will give us positive 16. Meaning, we are going to add both sides of the equation by positive 16. So we have x squared minus 8x plus 16 is equal to negative 15 plus 16. And then we have to simplify this expression. Negative 15 plus 16 is a positive 1. So we have x squared minus 8x plus 16 is equal to positive 1. And then we have to rewrite this perfect square trinomial as a square of a binomial. So the answer is, what is the binomial square of this one? That is x minus 4 quantity square. By following the form x plus b over 2 quantity square. And we all know that our b over 2 is a negative 4. That's why we are going to write negative 4 there. Now, let us extract the square roots of this equation. That is, getting the square root of both sides of the equation, we have square root of x minus 4 quantity square is equal to the positive and negative square root of 1. Now, what is the square root of x minus 4? Quantity square. That is x minus 4. What about the square root of 1? That is 1. So we have x minus 4 is equal to the positive and negative 1. For us to find the value of x, we have to isolate it on one side of the equation. Therefore, we are going to transpose negative 4 on the other side of the equation. So we have x is equal to positive and negative 1 plus 4. And then by separating the positive and negative 1 here, we have x is equal to positive 1 plus 4 and x is equal to negative 1 plus 4. By simplifying 1 plus 4, we have x is equal to 5 and then negative 1 plus 4, we have, again, in order for us to determine if the values of x na nahanap natin in the previous slide are correct, we have to do the checking. Iiwan ko sa inyo yung checking part na yon para kayo ang mag-verify kung tama yung sagot na nakuha natin. Okay? Let's proceed to example number 3. 2x squared plus 4x is equal to 16. Step-by-step process. Step 1, we have to make sure that the value of our a is equal to 1. In our equation, what is the value of our a? That is 2. Therefore, we have to divide each term of the equation by 2. So we have 2 divided by 2, makakancel na yan, and then ang matitira x squared plus 4 divided by 2, that is 2, is equal to 16 divided by 2, we have 8. Therefore, x squared plus 2x is equal to 8. Step 2, we have to group all the variable terms on one side of the equation and then the constant term on the other side of the equation. But as you can see on the equation, nakagroup na lahat na may mga variable sa isang side and then yung constant term sa right side. Ang gagawin na natin ngayon, proceed sa step 3, in which we are going to complete the square of this expression, x squared plus 2x. So that is by getting the half of the coefficient 2, we have b over 2 is equal to 2 over 2. And we all know that b over 2 is equal to 1. Next step is to square that 1. We have 1 square is equal to positive 1. Meaning to say, we are going to add both sides of the equation by positive 1. We have x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 8 plus 1. By simplifying this one, we have x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 9. Now, we are going to write this perfect square trinomial as a square of a binomial. That is, x plus 1 quantity square is equal to 9. Saan again nakuha si 1? Kay b over 2, which is equal to 1. Now, let us apply the extracting square root. We are going to get or take the square root of both sides of the equation. So we have square root of x plus 1 quantity square is equal to positive and negative square root of 9. And then by simplifying, what is the square root of x plus 1? Quantity square. That is x plus 1. How about square root of 9? That is 3. So we have x plus 1 is equal to the positive and negative 3. Again, in order for us to find the value of x or the roots of the equation, we have to isolate x on one side of the equation. We are going to transpose positive 1 into the other side of the equation. So we have x is equal to positive and negative 3 minus 1. And then, after that, we are going to separate the positive and negative 3. So we have x is equal to positive 3 minus 1, and then x is equal to negative 3 minus 1. By simplifying, what is 3 minus 1? 3 minus 1, we have x is equal to positive 2. What about x is equal to negative 3 minus 1? It will give us x is equal to negative 4. Therefore, the values of x, or the roots of the equation 2x squared plus 4x is equal to 16 are 2 and negative 4. Iiwan ko ulit sa inyo yung checking part for you to determine if the answers na nahanap natin ay correct. Okay? Okay, let's have example number 4. 2x squared minus 3x minus 9 is equal to 0. Step-by-step process. Step 1, we have to determine what is the value of a. In this equation, what is the value of a? That is 2. Since it is 2, we have to divide each term of the equation by 2. So we have 2x squared divided by 2 is equal to x squared. And then negative 3x over 2, or negative 3x divided by 2 is equal to negative 3 over 2x. And then negative 9 divided by 2 will give us negative 9 over 2 equals 0 divided by 2 is equal to 0. So we have x squared minus 3 over 2x minus 9 over 2 is equal to 0. Step 2. We have to group all the variable terms sa isang side of the equation, and then the other side yung constant naman. So we are going to transpose negative 9 over 2 on the right side of the equation. So we have x squared minus 3 over 2x is equal to positive 9 halves. And then after that, we are going to complete the square of this expression x squared minus 3 over 2x. It is by getting the half of negative 3 over 2. So we have b over 2 is equal to, what is our b? That is negative 3 over 2 divided by 2. It is equal to negative 3 over 4. And then this negative 3 over 4, we are going to square that. Negative 3 over 4 quantity square is equal to positive 9 over 16. Meaning, we are going to add both sides of this equation by 9 over 16. So that is x squared minus 3 over 2x plus 9 over 16 is equal to 9 over 2 plus 9 over 16. By simplifying this one, 9 over 2 plus 9 over 16 will give us 81 over 16. And this one is already written in standard form, in square of a binomial. So we have, saan nanggaling si negative 3 over 4? Ito po. Okay? Because we are going to follow the pattern x plus b over 2 quantity square. Therefore, we have x minus 3 over 4 quantity square is equal to 81 over 16. Now, next step is to extract the square roots of both sides of the equation. Meaning, we are going to get the square root of both sides of the equation. So we have the square root of x minus 3 over 4 quantity square is equal to the positive and negative square root of 81 over 16. Okay. What is the square root of x minus 3/4 quantity square? That is x minus 3 over 4, right? And how about square root of 81 over 16? By applying the division property of radicals, this one is this. Square root of 81 over 16 can be written as square root of 81 over square root of 16. And we all know that the square root of 81 is 9 and the square root of 16 is 4. Therefore, this one is equal to 9 over 4. So we have x minus 3 over 4. Ito yon, yung square root ng left side of the equation. And then equal to positive and negative 9 over 4. The square root of 81 over 16. Now, for us to find the value of x, we are going to transpose this one to the right side of the equation para mahanap natin yung values ni x. Diba? So we have x is equal to the positive and negative 9 over 4. Yung negative kanina magiging positive 3 over 4. And now, by separating the positive and negative, we have x is equal to positive 9 over 4 plus 3 over 4. And then x is equal to negative 9 over 4 plus 3 over 4. By simplifying this one, 9 over 4 plus 3 over 4 will give us 12 over 4 and we can simplify 12 over 4, right? 12 divided by 4 is equal to 3. Therefore, one solution or one root of this equation is 3. And then the other one, negative 9 over 4 plus 3 over 4 will give us negative 6 over 4. And we all know that negative 6 over 4 can be simplified in negative 3 over 2. Therefore, the values of x or the solution, the equation 2x squared minus 3x minus 9 is positive 3 and negative 3 halves. Again, how are we going to determine if these values of x are correct? We have to do the checking. Pero iiwan ko na sa inyo yung checking na yun. Kayo ang bahalang mag-verify kung tama o hindi yung sagot. Okay? By the way, itong mga fraction na to, alam ko namang naaral nyo na yun noong nakaraan. You have already know how to add, subtract, fractions, how to divide fractions. Just look at, balikan nyo na lang yung mga notes nyo nung grade 8 kayo. Okay? Okay, that's all for our lesson. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something. Good day, Sebastianians.